It's astounding.
She was defender of the faith. Charles, hasn't he made it fairly clear that he wants to be defender of faith?
I think he's come off that, though.
Has he?
I think he's come off that, because that went down
like a lead balloon.
A lead balloon.
But I do think what was very interesting was the Queen, as devout as she was, still had a very firm interest in other faiths. And I heard the chief rabbi on the radio this morning talking about how much she understood about Judaism, the respect she showed it, the interest she had in synagogues and what have you. So she, through her own faith, she had a deep respect for others.
But Charles was pushing it on, because what he was almost suggesting was that there was an equality amongst faiths in his mind, and I think that wasn't ever going to work out, I don't think.
It's an important point, because a lot of critics of the monarchy say, how can we have an established church? Is it right to have the monarch also being head of the Church of England? Well, actually, if you go and speak to imams and you speak to the chief rabbi, they say, we much prefer to have a person of faith than a person of no faith.
Ah, I see, because they understand.
They understand, and the Queen's always shown that respect. And then likewise, I mean, people like to criticise the Prince of Wales, but on so many of the issues in the 80s, he was talking to plants, now we're all doing organic food and so forth. He was the one engaging in interfaith dialogue, reaching out to Muslim communities, to Hindus. I mean, really preparing for the modern world that we have today.
Can I defend the King on that this morning?
Plants?
Because I talk to plants. I talk to plants all the time.
But you can admit that now. When it was first known about him was sort of like early 80s or late 70s. And it was just people thought he was a crackpot saying so, didn't they?
Oh, well.
And I think we all sort of do quirky things like that.
I always like to talk to plants and tell them how beautiful they look.
Well,
and
good.
What have you.
How many drinks have you had prior to
that? Do they speak back? I think
they don't speak back.
I'm still waiting for them to speak back.
Kind word hurt no one.
No, this is...
So there you go.
It's interesting, isn't it, Rafe? In the Times, they look at how foreign news is covering this.
Yes.
And it really is a global phenomenon, isn't it?
That's right. We have to remember, the Queen is such a global figure. As I said, there's nobody has been more photographed in history, and this is an event of international significance. Also, she's Queen of 14 other realms. Obviously, in Canada and Australia, buildings are being bathed in blue lights in Canada, and their flags are at half-mast. But around the world, you have this. And, it's one of those funny things. When the Queen went to the United Nations General Assembly several years ago to give a speech when she was still doing international tours, the room was packed full of giddy diplomats who were pushing each other out of the way, trying to take a photograph of this woman. And I thought, look, this frail little old lady has got the entire world, excited. You wouldn't get that for a president. Nobody would be doing this for a German chancellor.